Hello, my name is Jessica Watkins and this is my best practices presentation. The strategy I have is Marzano's homework and practice. The first image, I really liked this image because it shows your pencil. It has a multiplication sign, the addition sign, a chart over here, triangles, rectangles, and it represents different content that you do for homework in different grades. The other image with the bear with the pencil, it shows different content areas your students will have homework in, and down at the bottom are the URLs where I retrieved these images from. Objectives of homework and practice. What is it? Homework is defined as a task or assignment from a teacher to be completed outside of school. Homework is for the teacher to make a judgment on how well the students are learning the content after it has been introduced to the class. Practice is the amount of time that a student uses the content they have learned in class to apply it to their independent work outside of the class. Practice is also when the students work on content until they have mastered it. What does it look like? Homework looks like students completing an assignment on a computer, on a sheet of paper, on a camera, etc. It could be a student capturing evidence on a camera, such as an abiotic factor that the student has learned in science class. It could be working on multiplication tables. It could be watching a video on the Civil War and writing a reflection, working on a science project, and so much more. Practice looks like the students completing different assignments or listening and working in class to obtain more knowledge about the content until they master it. Practice could be working on building a model until you get it right, labeling the bones of the body until you can correctly connect a bone to the correct term, learning steps in the rock cycle, and so much more. Who is the targeted audience? Homework and practice is a good strategy for all students. Each student gets to practice what they learn in class to complete their homework. Homework prepares students to look over the class content, study for an exam, and it also allows for students to do research on topics and expand their knowledge. Any student at any grade level can do homework and practice that relates to the content they are learning. Are there any materials needed? The materials needed to complete the homework can be different. For homework on a computer, a student would need to have access to a computer. For an assignment that requires you to complete a handout the teacher has provided you, you will need a pencil or a pen and the handout. But for the majority of the time, a homework assignment will require a pencil and the handout. Some homework will also require the use of a camera, like if you were to have to take a picture of something, you would need your phone or just something that'll take a picture. Samples of homework and practice. Here are a couple of images that represent homework and practice. The first image of the owl with the pen and the paper represents homework the teacher has provided, and the second image represents a student applying what they have learned in class to complete their homework. What are the procedures? The first procedure is that the teacher is going to introduce the content to the students, teach them how to do or perform the activity, and then assign them homework and practice. The second procedure is that the students will take their homework home with them to complete. The third procedure is that the homework is an extra practice for the students to apply their knowledge of the content so the teacher knows where they stand in the class. And the last procedure is that after the students turn in the homework, the teacher can grade the work to see if they are learning the content and whether or not the students are retaining the knowledge. And then the teacher can decide whether they're going to move back and reteach some of the content that the students still haven't really retained or move forward to the next lesson. Are there any modifications that need to be made for students with disabilities? For students with blindness, they would need their homework to be in Braille or in an audio recording so they can listen to the questions and then practice their homework and complete it. For students with the ELL, they would possibly need a dictionary to translate the meaning of words, and they could have two handouts with the same materials. One would be in English and the other would be in their native language. For students who have learning disorders, they would need extra support, extra time for completion, and maybe extra guidance. For some extra references or additional references, I read the What's the Purpose of Homework? It was really good. Effective Practices for Homework. It explains why homework is important, and it talks about how it can give students responsibility or teach them responsibility. And then Marzano's The Case for and Against Homework. In this article, it has a really good point, and it identifies how much time you should have your students spend on their homework. My formative assessment questions